everyone. Welcome to Aligned Almost, the podcast where we talk about navigating life, healing, and becoming more aligned one step at a time, even when we don't have it all figured out. This is episode 14. I am Denise.
And I'm B.
And today we are going to talk about daddy issues yet again. We talked about it a few episodes ago, so this is part 2. It's a huge topic, and we have a lot more to say about it, so here we are.
Here we are. Daddy issues. Let's
daddy
go.
Issues. It's something that I think all of us can relate to, and really what we're going to touch on is parental issues as a whole. Of course, daddy issues is like one of the main ones, but I think that a lot of us are also dealing collectively with mommy issues. So it's really both at the end of the day.
Parental wounds, I think, is what you said, right? Like,
exactly.
It's just more fun to say daddy issues.
Yeah. And B and I obviously talk a lot about some of the things that we're working through. And one of the things that comes up often is how we sometimes exhibit the behaviors that we didn't love about our parents. And so it's coming to terms with the fact that we're not perfect and we embody some of the very things that we didn't find favorable in the people that we grew up around, particularly our moms and our dads in this situation. So I have struggled with that. As I've shared before, my father was, he wasn't a diagnosed narcissist, but he was a textbook, whether it was borderline personality disorder or narcissism. Either way, it was something that a lot of behaviors that were mirrored to me were unhealthy and made for an unhealthy dynamic between he and my mom. And I've had to unlearn those behaviors, such as being jealous, controlling, and really just trying to consume in a way the person that I was in a relationship with. And it sounds terrible when I say it, but that's who I was. And it's really facing that because I don't want to be like that and making a conscious effort to catch myself, because it's very easy to go back to things that we normalized or we weren't aware of and that we were doing subconsciously. So it's taken a lot of work, and I know in my marriage I was very controlling. When I look back, I wouldn't let him do things freely without checking up on him, and that was coming from a place of wounding. And now I acknowledge that, and I know that my next marriage, because there will be another one, I'll catch myself when I want to do that. And I don't want to be that partner, the person that's, soul sucking and trying to monitor every move. We're humans, and we should be two whole humans in partnership, not merging together and consuming one another.
Yeah, I think the controlling thing, I think that's probably a pretty common thing a lot of us experience. I feel like I've been pretty controlling, even in friendships sometimes. But I think I heard something once where it was like, when you are the one who wants to be controlling, it's because you came from a place where everything was out of your control. So it's kind of like a trauma response. So it's like when you have a parent who is very controlling and very like, you have to do things like my way or the highway, my rules, or get the fuck out, or whatever it is, right? Like, then you like, when you finally have your freedom, you're like, oh shit, like, I have to control this now because like there has to be some sense of control. And that's like a really difficult one, I feel like, to release, because it's like it's kind of like one of those, you have to take the leap and just know that the net is going to catch you, and like know that you don't have to control every situation, and like things can actually turn out much better when you don't. But when that's all you know, and it's so tough. Yeah,
it is. I know as I mentioned, my dad was controlling towards my mom, and she wasn't allowed to work. I don't want to go into the nitty gritty, but essentially she wasn't allowed to be her own person at all. So I didn't go to those extremes, but there is this detachment where we have to trust the other person that we're with. And in this dynamic, it was different because he was also doing things that, he was not faithful, and he was being shady. And what happens when you do that is you usually think that other people are doing the same. So he did a lot of that towards her. So I have caught myself again in relationships. And even though I don't act, as I mentioned before, I'd been unfaithful in relationships. So for me, I'm aware, and I don't want to create that, or I don't want to continue that pattern. Whereas I think some people just they say they don't want to continue and then they don't do anything to not revert. Because again, even people that are unfaithful, they're acting from a place of wounding. It's not from a place of wholeness. And very rarely do you see people that have affairs and stuff. Are they happy? I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but no, because they're acting from a place of wounding. So to have taken a step back, and as I've working with a healer, and she's like, you have to be easy on yourself, because I beat myself up a lot for the things that I've done. But she says, you have to be easy because you grew up with somebody who was, you know, operated this way, and that was mirrored to you, and you're actually making efforts to be better. And it's not easy to sit there and be like, oh, I've been unfaithful. And it's embarrassing. And it's the very thing that I absolutely despise when I see and hear it about people. So why the fact that I can be put in that category is, ugh. But again, I think the difference is when you make a conscious effort to do better, and it's not easy. And it takes a lot of looking at your own shadows while not beating yourself up, which is also not easy. Because I think there are two extremes. You can either beat yourself up and be like, why would I do this? Why would I do this? And be so shameful. But that's also not productive. You have to find a middle ground between awareness and, you know, just knowing that, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but there's like a middle ground between this, right? There's just between beating yourself up. It's like, it can be unproductive if you're doing that too. So you can have awareness without extreme guilt in order to improve.
Yeah. And like in general, when we guilt and when we shame ourselves for things, like it's extremely unproductive. Like there's really no benefit in anything, because you kind of stay in that and you stay really like stagnant. And I think shame in general, like there's just, when you can get to a place where you just give yourself grace for all of the things, like every single person on this earth has made a mistake. Like, there is no perfect person. Like, we've all fucked up, definitely more than once, too. Like, and if somebody is, like, and we'll still fuck up. But if somebody's, like, acting like they've never fucked up, they've probably fucked up way more than the people who say they have, right?
Yeah. Have you seen the thing? There's something I shared on Instagram where it talks about some of the most evil people are the ones that aren't aware of their own shadows. Those are the people that you have to look out for. The people that aren't aware that they've fucked up, or the people that think that they do no wrong and everyone else does them dirty. Those are the people you really have to look out for. The people
That's
that
insane
don't. It's insane. If you think you do no wrong, you are. I don't care who you are. You are messed up.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that lightly.
It's funny because like I saw that post and then I think about it and I'm like, well, I feel like I've gotten to a place where like I don't really like do, not that I like don't do anything wrong, but I'm like, am I not holding myself accountable? But it's like, no, like it's just not like big things where it's like, it's smaller things where I'm like, oh, like, hey, like I probably should have responded to that a little bit differently, or like I wish I would have like handled this situation a little differently. And I think like, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm fucking insane, who knows, but like I feel like you get to a point in your healing journey too where you give yourself grace and you like learn, and you don't beat yourself up, and like it becomes more natural, like when you do make mistakes, for it to not like be this like harboring like entity that like runs your life. Am I making any sense right now?
Yeah, no, you do make sense. I like you're saying, I think there comes a point, but that's more geared towards people that haven't looked at their own shadows at all and have done nothing, and they're just always, there are people that are going to spend the duration of their lifetime playing the victim and not acknowledging the role that they play in any dynamic, and those, I think that's what you need to look out for. So it's not easy to admit when we do wrong, to admit it to ourselves, let alone admit it to other people, but that's important. It's an important step in order to not continue that pattern. And same with like unfaithfulness. To actually admit that on your own is huge. Usually people get forced into it, like Tiger Woods. Like Tiger Woods. You know, and then they get like this forced apology. I don't really know him, but I would imagine you feel pressure to apologize, and they're like, I'm a sex addict. No, dude, you probably have some other shit going on, I'm sure, like some deeper stuff. But you know, like they always had to put a label on it so that they can say they're going to improve, and then they put themselves in rehab, but really they're just embarrassed and they don't know how to. I'm sorry, that's my example.
I don't know what example I would have picked, but I'm just dying at the choice of Tiger Woods right now.
Tiger Woods.
I haven't thought about him in years.
I know, it's so old. If nobody knows, Tiger Woods was caught cheating on his wife, who was super hot, right? And he was like serial cheating on her, and then he like apologized publicly for it. And then didn't he say he was a sex addict and going to rehab or something?
I think so.
That's always the solution.
What even is sex addict rehab? Like,
it's probably working on deeper wounds that have nothing, like sex is
should be. It should be.
Sex is like that's not the root of the problem. The problem is something deeper than that. Same with, again, being unfaithful. There's something deeper than that. It's not just like, ooh, I like to be with multiple women. Like, no, there's something there.
And if you do, like, if you're into the whole like poly thing, cool, but own that shit.
Own
like,
it and be open about it. And gravitate towards people that are open to that and receptive to that alignment.
Right.
Don't deceive people and say, hey, I'm a monogamous person. Meanwhile, you're over there fucking around. And then you're not going to live a happy life because you're not acting out of integrity. Mm-hmm. That's it. You're not going to. Yeah. You're lying to people. That's always going to come back to you in some way, shape, or form.
And they're lying to themselves.
This is true. So we just need to acknowledge some of the less desirable traits that we gain from our parents. And I will also venture to say that there's another piece of me that acts sometimes, or would act, more submissive to a fault. And I think that I got that. And my mom is obviously a very kind person, and
she's amazing.
Yeah, but she has been submissive in relationships, and it took her a while to step out, but she did. And I think that sometimes she wishes she had stepped out of the marriage sooner. I say stepped out, it sounds like she cheated. She didn't cheat. She left the guy, as she should have. And by the guy, I mean my dad. I don't know. She left that man. But good for her, because some people never do. And so she was abused in multiple ways, and now she's living her life, her best life, and she's finding her identity outside of that still, even though it's been several years. And we're all always trying to find our new identities. It's ever changing, but still, I think the point is I've caught myself also being a little bit more submissive when I'm in dynamics where I feel like I want to earn the person's love, and I let them treat me in ways that they shouldn't, or just kind of take advantage of me. And I catch myself in both, or I've caught myself in both. And so now I'm trying to find a balance between holding boundaries and I don't want to be this controlling person, nor do I want to be submissive. And it's taking practice and unlearning and catching myself because our brains want to default to the familiar. And so it's fighting that. I'm not going to be controlling. This is a whole person. They're at liberty to do what they want. Do I want them to be honest with me? Of course, but you can't force someone into honesty. I've tried that. I mean, I tried that with the situationships that I recently had. It didn't do anything.
I've tried it too.
You try to force honesty out of people who aren't capable of honesty, and it doesn't work. Or they'll throw it back at you. Like even with the friend falling out that I had, where I called her out on it, and she's like, you like to play the victim. I'm like, I'm sorry, since when does expressing emotions for something that you did that was sketchy playing the victim? It's not. And it's not. It's funny because I don't like to talk about these things, but I'm finding that talking about them is the very thing that I should do in order to heal. So yeah, I'm going to keep talking about it because it's something that's big. It's a huge part of my life, and now I'm going to I have to use discernment and know who to trust and who not to trust. And so again, it's all finding balance and rewiring my brain not to default. And I also don't want to think everyone is out to get me, because that's not a healthy way. We're all we just use your discernment, act from a place of integrity. See, people will show who they are eventually.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times it's a lot quicker than we realize.
Especially,
and you see that in hindsight.
Yep.
And I think we both have been practicing that more in real time, and it's very quick. We'll have conversations and be like, there's something off here with this person. And then it's a week later, 2 weeks later, we're like, okay, there's something really fucking weird going on here. Let's cut this off.
And our cutoff game is stronger. And that's great, because we're not putting ourselves in situations where we're getting deeply involved in these people. And it's not, we're talking about all relationships, platonic and, whatever it is. It's kind of great. It's
great.
Part of us being in alignment, B.
Sometimes I wonder if my cutoff game is a little too strong, though, because I'm like, fuck you, I'm never talking to you again. And then, I don't know, 10 months later, I'm like, just kidding.
Yeah. I mean,
Not always.
there's
Just
a
in certain
balance.
circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just there's always a balance, and finding the balance in anything is so tough. Especially for me. I'm like a black and white. Things are black and white, and I'm trying to unlearn that. You know.
That's tough though, because that's a big like thing in like neurodivergent brains are very black and white. Like I'm diagnosed with ADHD. I know we talk like you're probably there too somewhere. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but
no,
not diagnosed, but like we have similar brain styles.
Yeah, definitely.
And a big part of that is like black and white thinking, and so it's like really hard because it's kind of like our brains are really, really like wired that way. But it is like you can't really run life like that.
No, there's forever finding the healthy balance between everything. Is like, yeah, everything, literally
Everything.
Yeah, and I think that it helps when you encounter people that are different from yourself. Like, it was always difficult for me to try to level with people that operated the exact opposite of myself, and that's actually a healthy thing because you learn to balance. And even you and I, in the way that we operate, we're pretty opposites in a lot of. I know that we have a lot of similarities and parallels, but the way that we move out in the world is also very different. And that's you grow in those situations. You don't need to avoid people that are different from you. I mean, if the person's in alignment, you will know. Like for us, our differences are not a lack of alignment. It's just the way that we work and are productive is different. And so that's actually how you grow the most. And I think that's why they say that you grow the most in relationships. And when we say relationships, I mean all relationships. And it's not just, romantic, because B and I aren't in a romance. But it's still like we have to learn to work together and be productive together. And so the way I move about and the way you move about is different, and we're figuring it out. It's not black or white. And I also used to think that anytime there were differences, that meant like, I guess I don't need to talk to that person again. But that's also not true.
Right. Yeah. Like you're saying, like you learn a lot, like working through differences. And like, also, if everybody's the same, life would be so fucking boring.
It would be.
Like, we're here to be challenged. So we're not all going to be the same. We're not all going to think the same. We're not all going to believe the same. And like, sometimes things aren't aligned. But then sometimes you just like, I don't know, I think you just let people be people and like be like, oh, like, and like for us, right? Like we can look at this many different ways. And I actually would recommend like with the people in your life, I think it's fun and fascinating, but with the people in your life, like look this up. Like I'm a water sign, you're a fire sign. That on its own, we're going to operate differently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then recently we like dove into human design a little bit and like we're comparing our like profiles, right? And like how those are also like almost opposites. And like it's like one of those things where it's like it can either make you or break you, right? Because like we can let our like different ways of being like clash and like fall apart and like explode into a watery, fiery mess, or we can like lean on each other's strengths and actually like to work together to have like become a stronger unit. Right. We're gonna have like a community of people who are like shipping us.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's true. I think this all ties in. What we're trying to communicate is the level of self-awareness that we have, and how having that awareness helps you evolve. And we never stop evolving. We should never stop evolving. That's part of being human. And I want to ask you too, B, how do you feel your parental issues have affected you? Because I shared how mine were. Yeah. So I'm wondering how, for me, it's the balance between being submissive and controlling. And I just wonder how yours.
Mine's been pretty similar, I would say. So like growing up, my mom and dad separated when I was 11, I think. And my dad was an alcoholic. And my mom definitely has always played that more like submissive role, I would say. She was a stay-at-home mom, and like not to say there's anything wrong with stay-at-home moms. Like that is a full-time job. Like even if you're not a stay-at-home mom, that's a fucking full-time job.
Yeah.
But, she made me her whole world, right? And like she didn't really have an identity outside of being like B's mom. Like that was her name. Like that was even like she wasn't called her first name a lot of the times. And that was a detriment to both of us. And especially after her and my dad separated, we had like a really codependent relationship with each other. And through that, like, I feel like I would just develop like these codependent relationships with my friends, in like romantic relationships. Like, I only knew codependency, and I associated codependency with love. And it's like, well, if we're not like completely like meshing and like becoming this like soup together, like, then you don't even love me, like, you don't care about me. Like, if you're not willing to like sacrifice your whole being for me, then like, what are we doing? And like, I'm souping it up with you. I don't know why I'm going with soup,
Souping
but
it up. I love that. Souping it up. No, it makes total sense.
but like, you know, it's like blending like liquids.
Here we go, blending liquids in more ways than one. He's all about blending liquids.
Too. So soup, and but it really felt like that was love. That's what I was taught was love. And I know my mom loves me dearly, but it was not a healthy way. And I can look back a further generation and see how my grandma really neglected my mom. So then my mom, right, wanted to fill that void with me. Mm-hmm. But then, like, I've just, like, wasn't really, like, what's the word? Self-sufficient. And, like, I wasn't my own person, and neither one of us were. We were kind of just these, like, weird blends of each other. And I had to do a lot of work, actually, to, like, separate myself and be like, who the fuck am I? Like, do I actually like these things, or do I just like these things because my mom likes these things, or because my mom wanted me to like these things, or because society wanted me to like these things, or like existential crisis, right? But a lot of that. And then with like on the dad's side, right? My dad was an alcoholic, was emotionally unavailable, was for the most part physically unavailable. You know, he prioritized his career and his friends over his family, and then one day decided, I'm good, I don't want a family anymore, like, see you later. And we're like, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
And like, I am grateful because he did always provide for me financially.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, it's better than nothing, but it still like leaves a lot of mess. And then my stepdad, like, not the best, like, pretty controlling, very like my way or the highway kind of guy. And there was just a lot, I mean, I've talked about it before, there was just a lot of like really problematic ways that he treated me in my like preteen and teen years, and even in my like adult years, where like that's just not how you treat people. And that's not like, and so it's been difficult. I don't think I really absorbed any of that like emotional unavailability, but from either of the dad figures in my life. But it did definitely put me into this place where I felt like I had to water myself down, and I had to be less. I'm a fucking water sign. If I'm not crying, something is wrong. Like,
is that right? I cry a lot. I didn't know that. I'm a fire sign.
I've always like been a big crier. So like, that's just like the primary way I express my emotions. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when something is fucking funny. Like, always crying, right? So when the men in my life couldn't handle that, I'm like, okay, I can't be like this. And then that just created mental health issues, because I'm like, okay, I have all these emotions and I need to let them out, but I can't let them out. So I'm going to like try and stuff them down, and I can't stuff them down. Then
yeah, it takes a constant unlearning. And
yeah,
one of the things that you touched on, I want to go back to, is how we think that a healthy relationship involves being like prioritizing that person, and it does to an extent, but that doesn't mean blending and becoming one unit. Like, I think the healthiest relationships are two separate people with two separate lives, and they find a way to grow parallel with each other. So you have endeavors, this person has goals, like you both have different goals, and you support each other and you grow together. And that doesn't have to look like, it's not, it's a parallel thing versus like a meshing of souls, if that makes any sense. And I've always thought the same, where I've always wanted to consume myself with the other person or spend all my time with them. All my free time was around them, and I'd revolve my schedule around them. And it's almost suffocating, and it doesn't allow that other person to breathe. If that, either way, even if they want that, it just creates this all consuming thing. And once I would get to that point where we had blended and we're all meshed up in a ball, I'm using a meshed up ball versus soup, but I would get sick of it, and then I would want to step away. And that's the very thing that would cause me, I thought that's what I wanted. And I'm like, wait a second, no. Now I see it was because I wasn't putting enough focus on myself and allowing that person to put enough focus on their selves. And I was always afraid that that person was going to leave me or that they were going to pick somebody else. And that's a terrible space to be in. And even if they were proving otherwise, that they were proving they were there for me, I was never convinced because I didn't feel secure. So it wasn't about the person. And then eventually I started to find people that were truly, not faithful and whatnot. But that's not the point. The point is, like, again, discernment. There's a level of discernment there, but there was also a piece of me that wasn't going to feel secure in a relationship, even if the person was giving me everything that I wanted. Because I didn't feel, I was always like, oh my God, you're going to leave me. You're going to leave me. And that comes from having an unstable parental figure. And though my dad was physically present most of the time, I mean, he was always fucking around, whether he was being an asshole to my mom or he would, I don't know, go off. I mean, he had a whole ass daughter in another city that I didn't even know about. So who knows what he was doing.
That's
but
wild.
I think that even as a kid, you pick up on those things. And so there's a level of instability that you develop, and I've worked through. And so now we know, both of us are learning that it takes us continuing to focus on ourselves even when we are in relationships, and not letting that person consume us, because it's very exciting and you want to be like, oh no, I want to do everything with you and this is great. But that's exactly how relationships end up crumbling. So it's tough because, again, it's almost like when you eat chocolate and you like an M&M and you're like, I'm going to eat the whole bag. Maybe that's just me. But, and then you eat the whole bag and then you feel sick and you're like, why did I do that? Whereas if you just had a handful, you would have been fine.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why I say M&Ms, because that's what came to mind, because it tastes good. They taste good.
Yeah, it's like, too, like when you do when you mesh, you can't really build like a proper foundation together. And I had this like visual come through. It's like if you're literally building a foundation like with cement or whatever. I don't know how people build foundations, but with cement, right?
Yeah.
And
whatever.
it's like if you have whatever. If you have two people like pouring cement with the little like cement shovels and shit, right? Like building it together versus like two people holding one shovel together and like trying to like, it's just one, it's not gonna build. Like the cement's gonna start drying in places before you can get the whole thing laid, and then like it's not gonna work. Like, you're not gonna have a stable foundation.
B, were you a construction worker in another life or what? That was a great analogy. We don't even build houses over here. That was so good.
I'm like a house builder now.
I know, look at you.
New era.
But it's so true. And I've never done that in my life. And I've come to a place where I'm like, all right, this is the first time I'll be ready. And as I've mentioned in my marriage, I feel like that was it. Like I didn't let him be, and I wasn't being my whole person. And I've apologized to him a lot because I want to acknowledge the fact that I didn't divorce somebody who was an awful human. I think he is super kind at his core. Of course, we all have flaws, so I can sit there and be like, oh, well, this was wrong with him and that, and he can do the same. But that wasn't it. I was just not a whole person, and I was never going to feel whole, and I couldn't have done it in the marriage. And even now that I'm away from it, I think it's great. He's found somebody. I don't know what that will look like, but I'm super happy for him, and I think he's deserving of that love. And he's been there for me so many times, and he's the very person I've had to lean on when I've really felt in dark spaces, and he would tell me that I didn't deserve the way that I was being treated, and that was also very healing too, because I didn't treat him well. I would venture to say that he was one of the people that I've treated the worst, and for him to say that is a lot. And so I really just want to like give a lot of credit. I don't know why that makes me like emotional, but it's just we can't beat ourselves up, because I can sit there and be like, I could have done this X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have grown. So I'm super happy for him. I have a lot of love for him, and I learned a lot from our marriage, and it sucks that I hurt him, but I'm really happy that he seems happy now.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, like when you can come out on like the other side of something like that, and you guys co-parent really well together, which I've seen, and it's just like it's nice that like I think that's like a testament too to the people listening, like even when you like fuck up, when you take accountability and you like do what you can, right? Because there's only so much we can do after we fuck up, but when you do what you can, like sometimes there is option to like repair things in a way, and it's not going to be like it was before, right? And like neither one of you probably want it to be that way.
No,
but like you can still like work together where you need to and care about each other, and like
yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I like, it's incredible to me that I think you would have to know and be in a mature space to understand that you could have married somebody, and like we don't have a desire to rekindle our marriage at all, but you can still have a lot of love for that person. And so that I do have a lot of love for him, because that's the very person who's helped me, not like in the moments where, like I said, I struggled with depression and I didn't want to be alive anymore. It was like 3 a.m. one morning, and he like talked me through it. And so it's like, how do you not have love for somebody that was willing to do that when I was unfaithful to him, when I like did all these things? And I still like struggle with the guilt of it, but I acknowledge that I can't beat myself up, and I can only promise to never do that again to anybody. So yeah, and I wasn't also not like a serial cheater or anything. It was towards the end of the marriage, and I just didn't. I know, like, I think I had wanted to leave and be on my own for a while, and I just didn't go about it in a healthy, mature way. And so I went off and, did something I regret. And so now I look at it, and I mean, I can't regret it at the end of the day, because that was the moment I knew that I needed to make a big change, and I didn't want to live in a space where I was like living a double life or anything like that. So I didn't repeat my father's mistakes and, continue in an affair like some people do or anything like that. It was like a moment, and I was like, okay, I'm not this person. I don't want to be this person, and I need to step away. And I did. Yeah. And I thought I was going to step away and find some other guy to fill my space. But instead, I learned a bunch of lessons that have since taught me to be a really good, just a better human. I mean, I don't want to say a really good human, like I'm like, oh, you're perfect. But
okay, Jesus.
I mean, I do have my Jesus necklace on. Yes. I did not know that the little fish that I got was like a Christian, what is it, a Christian symbol? I didn't know. I was like, oh, a fish. I was by the water, and I was like, ooh, this is very beachy. I got my Jesus necklace, and I'm this is such a good person.
Amen. Oh man. Yeah, it's I think a lot of us, you can live and look back and be like, I wish I handled the situation differently, but still not regret it. I think when we live with regrets, like that's where we kind of fuck ourselves over, because it's really just a different form of shame, right? And like you just have to appreciate every step of life, and we're not always gonna make the right decisions, and we're not, we're kind of here to fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you learn a lot when you should, at least. If you don't, you're kind of doing it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that. There are some souls here that I'm sure are certain are just for people to level up. Like their whole purpose is to cause fucking chaos. And to force other souls to level. They're like
boss battles. Like in video games, you just like you beat the boss and you level up. Like that's their whole purpose. Like
And that's what I think some of those like more demonic low vibe humans are out there that have no self-awareness. Maybe narcissists too, right? The ones that don't like the true narcissists, because we like to throw that around, but the people that just have no, is it narcissists, or am I thinking sociopaths? The one that like lack empathy and all that. I don't know.
Honestly, the line between the two is very thin. So it can kind of go either way, but I think both lack empathy
Yeah.
and self-awareness probably.
It's interesting, yeah. It's hard to put labels on things, and that's one of the points I struggle with too, because my dad didn't believe in mental health, but he exhibited so many unhealthy behaviors. And I remember during our last conversation, he was like, "You just what did he say? He said I needed help or something." I was like, "We all need help at some point, like mental help." And I don't remember what he said to me, but I was like, "You are literally like a textbook narcissist. You should look that up, or a sociopath." I can't remember. And he's like, "No," and he got so mad. And that was either it was our last conversation or second to last, but it was all like, I actually took what he said to heart, but what he said about me, and I was like, maybe he's right. Maybe I need to look into whatever he said. And I don't think he even thought for a second that he was in the wrong at all in that moment. But I also don't think he entirely lacked empathy. So it's difficult for me to navigate people that, I'm like, was it just because I'm giving him leniency for being my dad? But I think he didn't. My brother and I were talking about that. At his core, I think he was he tried to be good. He just had a lot of characteristics that
Demons.
he was troubled, and he grew. It's my father still say. In his defense, he had a very rough upbringing, like incredibly rough, and so I think he tried to do right, and I think that ultimately shame is what had him walk away from us, because he would have rather walk away from everything he knew than admit he was wrong. So that's tough too, because I feel for his soul, because I would think that he thinks about us sometimes. I don't know, but he, as a dad, he did a lot of things that like were they genuine? I don't know. And that's where I'm still trying to learn it. This is what I think why I deal with men, that like, I'm like, well, he did really nice. Like, you remember when you laughed at me when I was like, he bought me a birthday cake, and you're like, dude, that's bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
He sang me happy birthday, and he got me a carrot cake.
A carrot cake.
Meanwhile, he was over here like lying and had every girl under the sun under his, like, at the moment I wasn't available, he would just, oh, I'm busy working on the ranch. Sorry, I'm gonna pull out an identifying factor, but that was his cop out. And so, yeah, I knew, but it's hard because I make excuses for people that are doing things to me, and that's something I still need to work through. So
that's
TBD,
a hard
guys.
thing too. Yeah, I noticed, like, because my stepdad, I still don't think he believes in mental health, but that was like his big thing, like, that he didn't believe in mental health. I feel like the people who say that they don't believe in mental health probably need mental health help the most. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Just saying. Like, if you're that against it, like, especially in 2026, like, maybe you should get that checked out. But it's like, and I know my stepdad he doesn't share a lot about his past, which I think is super suspicious, but he did, from what I do know, had a very challenging childhood. And so it's like, we can give them empathy and understand why they are the way they are, but then it's difficult. And this is like one of the big lessons I think we've both been learning and like what you were saying, it's like, you can't just give endless empathy and like let them still, treat you. My ex had a very difficult upbringing, had addiction problems, all this stuff. I could understand why he was hitting me, but that didn't mean I needed to stay in that.
Yeah.
And like accept that. And that is the hardest part, because especially when you have a big heart and you like are a lover girl, lover boy, whatever, like you want to give them love because like that's what they're lacking and that's what they've been lacking. But then like you can't just take the abuse because you understand why. Like you have to be like, okay, like I see your wounds, I see your pain, I understand why you operate the way you do, but I also see that you are not on a growth and healing journey, and I can't be your punching bag. I can't I can't just sit around and like take all of the pain that you have for yourself and take it on myself. Like that's not fair to either one of us, and that's hard.
I think that's going to be a lifelong thing for me, as far as just making sure that I'm showing empathy, but not too much empathy to the point where I am not honoring my boundaries. And for everyone, I think that's important. If you're an empathetic person, you should still honor your boundaries. And even if you understand why that person's operating in a way that is harmful or hurtful, that doesn't mean that you have to stay. You can you can understand, and not all humans want to evolve, and it's not your place to sit there and hold their hand through it, especially if they don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can lead a horse to water, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It'll end up, that's like what the energy vampire dynamic really is, right? That the person just ends up sucking the life out of you, slowly but surely, or quickly. Just depends.
Yeah. And then there's two people with no like life energy left. And I think when you're an empathetic person, you really have to have strong boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging to establish those at first because you feel like a fucking asshole.
Right.
You feel like a heartless asshole. And it's tough. And like anything, it's a learning experience and it's kind of trial and error. But you have to have boundaries. Otherwise, like, your soul is ripe for the picking.
Yep. This is true. It's a lifelong process, and we are unlearning the less desirable traits. And you could also take on the more desirable ones and nourish those. And it takes being, healthy and whole within yourself. And then if you're in a relationship or any like friendship dynamic, just learning to grow together despite the differences and being able to communicate the differences in a healthy way. And I'm very excited to experience that in a romantic sense because I've never been in a position to be receptive to that. So now that I am, and when the time is right, it's going to be really good because I know that I'll attract somebody who is open and able to have those like hard discussions and know that we're not always going to see eye to eye, but that doesn't mean we have to, fight or, whatever. I was going to say throw swords. Is that even a phrase?
Throw swords.
Because I feel like that's how anytime I would bring up issues in any recent dynamic, it was always met with like, oh, you're dramatic, or oh, you're this, or very much not receptive to talking about it. And then I would be like, you're right, I am that way, instead of being like, I wouldn't defend myself. Instead, I would water myself down because I didn't want to create conflict and I didn't want to lose that person, which is, I don't regret it because, again, it's making me a better person for that future partner that I'm calling in.
Yeah. It's all lessons. And
yeah,
as long as we're, we have the goal of bettering ourselves and learning and growing, like, I feel like that in itself, like having that desire, like you're pretty much in alignment with that. Like, it's a process, but when you have that like on your heart and like you make that a part of your daily life, like, you're doing good. Yeah.
We're doing great. You're doing great. If you're listening, that means you're
great. Everyone's doing great.
Well, honestly, if people are listening, it means that they're receptive to learning. And that's huge too. That is a big step. That is what the catalyst to where I am now is listening to other people speak of these things. So that's something to give anybody who's listening credit for, because you are trying to do better if you're listening to things, the podcasts that are on self-improvement and self-awareness and growth. That's a sign. So yay to you and your soul and your higher self and everyone around you.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
That's right. And even if you're just supporting us, also thank you, because that means that you're a real one.
Yeah, we got some real ones.
Yeah.
But we're having so much fun with this podcast, and we really appreciate everybody who listens and everybody who's rated the podcast. If you haven't rated the podcast yet, we would totes preach a little 5-star job.
Please.
And if you want to follow us, we are at Aligned Almost, basically everywhere. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. You can find us. Google us. I don't know. I haven't Googled us, so maybe I should.
You can try.
Maybe don't Google us. Let me do it first, guys. Hold on. But so thanks everybody. That is our episode for today. And until next time, just remember that none of us have it all figured out. We're just aligned almost.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.